tabloid. You're going to print out your pages on single sheets. Don't pay for large format prints that are oversized because this project will cost you $100 if you do that. The idea is if you print them on the 12 by 20 super tabloid size, you only have to pay $1 per print because they're typically on sale over here in the print bureau. They want you to use them, so they give you a nice discount. At another place like Kinko's or Alpha Graphics, it might cost you $2 per print. So budget for about $30 to $35 maximum. So each printout is going to be on its own page with its own trim marks, and everything should be a full bleed. And they're just slightly undersized here for the demo. Obviously, yours are going to be about an inch bigger. And the first thing you're going to do is go through and match up all your spreads. So I'm going to do page 2 and 3 and get them paginated left and right correctly. And what I like to do is mark the inside gutter with a big X to remind me that that's the first thing to get cut off. So I don't have to think too hard when I'm doing stuff. I'm just going to look for the X and I'll know that that's what gets cut off. So there's page 4 and 5, big old X in the gutter. Then you're going to take each spread and use your trusty knife and find the trim line on the area that you've marked with an X. And we're going to trim this all the way off. This is the first slice to get made all the way off. Be sure your blade is nice and sharp. Start with the brush blade. Okay, so once I've got my gutters trimmed, I'm going to be able to line this up. And ideally, if you have an object that crosses the gutter, you can use those objects for your alignment. So if I had a bleed or something like that, I could just align the bleed. But in this case, I don't really have that. So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use my little color bars and my printout at the bottom that has the page numbers to line stuff up. So I'm just going to visually align it the best I can. And I'm going to use what's called magic tape or invisible tape. And I'm just going to tape it in the what's called the slug area. That's the area that falls away after you trim it. And I'm just going to tack it down so that when I flip it over, it's all registered and it's perfect. And all I have to do is just tape it across the back because we want the tape to be completely not visible from edge to edge. And something that you guys did the first time around is you skimped on the tape, so it was all falling apart. Right? This tape is like pennies to use, so don't skimp on the tape. Go all the way. And if you're not sure you got it all the way, you can just put a little extra piece on there. All right, so there's my first spread. It's looking good. And I'm going to do just 2 spreads today, and then the cover, and you guys can figure out the rest of the back page and whatnot. So see how fast this goes? I'm just looking for the X. That pre-planning really helps. So you don't have to think about pagination too hard. You do it one spread at a time so you don't get everything mixed up. And a good way to line it up is I'm using my blade and I'm hitting the trim line with my blade and then I'm aligning the ruler to that. That's just another quick trick to help you get stuff aligned. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. And this one I do have something crossing the gutter. I've got a photo and a rule line. So I'm going to line up the photo and rule line, and that'll be my perfect registration. And then I'm going to tape it in the slug area. And then flip it. And remember our static electricity trick, where it sticks to your arm so it doesn't get all... You've been there. You know what I'm talking about. Alright, so that's how you get it to go flat, is pre-taping it on the other side and then taping the final tape. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about these edges just yet. Last thing I'm going to do is cut what's called the spine edge on my cover. And I'm only going to cut just this one spine area, even though eventually the whole thing should be trimmed. Okay, this is where our registration happens, is you're gonna make sure that you've got your cover and page 2 and 3 right side up. So let's find it and get it right side up. There's page 2 and 3. The numbers are down here, so even if you didn't put a folio in, you should be able to align it based off of the numbers that print out in your bleed area. All right, and this is kind of a sloppy science here. It's not going to be perfectly registered, but we're just going to use the spine edge to line everything up. And I'm going to go in and line up that, and line up that. And I'm just going to use 2 little dots of tape to hold it in place. Right there, and right there. Now if this was my real tabloid, I would probably do a full strip there. I would recommend it, because this is the outside of your tabloid. I'm just short on tape today, so I'm going to conserve it a little bit. All right, there's page 2 and 3. Here's page 4 and 5. Make sure it's right side up. And then we're going to do the same thing, registering the back. This one you don't have to tape all the way across. That would be a waste of tape. We just need to get it registered and lined up. Okay, so you would do all of your pages and then you'd put on your back page ad. And on your back page ad, you're going to trim what would also be the spine edge rather than the trim edge. All right, so before you do any cutting, you're going to want to make sure everything's in the right order. Now's the time to paginate and make sure everything's okay. And if it's not, I just tabbed it with little pieces of tape. The tape should be fresh enough that you can pull it up and repaginate. The other thing I need to do is get these flaps taped together as well. Because they're so nicely registered here, taping this edge is going to be super, super easy. So what I'm going to do is put a little cheat mark for myself on that trim line. And I know that's where my cut's going to be. And I'm going to use my tape. And this is where it should be all the way across. And I'm going to cross that trim line. Are you out of memory there?
I certainly am.
Well, I think he's got it. So I'm going to cross that trim line and I'm going to go all the way. Now, I just ran out of tape, or I don't know, it's short, but you're going to go all the way across the edge there. And that's going to be super important. And because it's already registered here, you just slide it on down. And then I would do the same here as well, but this is too messed up, so I'll just skip that part. Okay, this is where you need your triangle, because we trimmed off our trim line over there. So the only trim mark we have is this area right there. So we're going to have to use the triangle, and I'm going to register everything off the spine. And I'm going to do the same trick before. I'm going to put my knife down there and then line that up. Just a little bit more complicated. There we go. That looks good. You're always going to cut against your metal, never against your plastic. And technically I shouldn't have trimmed that all the way because I do want that trim mark there. So I'm just going to put a little cheat mark here. Okay, so this time I'm going to try to not overshoot it. I overshot it there and I trimmed off my trim mark. So I'm going to try to be a little more thoughtful today. And that's going to take you about 5 strokes to get it all the way through because your paper is going to be substantially thicker and you're also going to be cutting through tape. All right, so this way I did it correctly. I left it connected, so my trim mark is still there. This trim mark fell off, so I'm just going to do my best to kind of line it up. So I'm just looking at this edge, trying to make it parallel since I kind of screwed up. And the tiniest little things that don't cut, go back and really take time to cut them because when it gets ragged, it's hard to repair. If it gets raggedy, I would recommend you maybe trim that with scissors. You might have better luck. Like I have a little tiny bump there, so I should probably go in and either try it with scissors or just recut it and get that little bump out because that will be a point off for not getting it beautiful because it should be square. So I'm just going to take that extra time and make it better. Ha! I made it worse. There we go. All right, so this is what the final thing should look like. It should be perfectly 11 by 14. That's what I'm looking for, is when I put all the magazines in a stack, they should all be the same size. And then because you've taped everything perfectly, it's going to flip and be perfect. Your corners should be perfectly glued. This is not, because I ran out of tape. So be sure you've got fresh tape, and it's like $1.50, $2 downstairs. And I'm looking to make sure that the trim marks aren't showing here, and that if anything crosses the gutter, it's aligned in the gutter. That's more important than the alignment on the outside. And that's it. So this job is kind of a fast job. I give myself maybe a B. It's not the best job, but it's enough to get it assembled for the print. Thank you.